in a kind of accommodation, unsuitable accommodation, we'll say, are going to find it really, really difficult to, sit down as part of a family meal routine, and I suppose the stress and the fraught life that people lead or families lead as well is an issue in trying to get this program to work when they leave here of a Tuesday or Wednesday night. Okay, so can I ask you, so in relation to what elements of the program do you think work best for parents? What do you think? I think dependent on the group you have, I suppose, I found the group work piece worked very well this year. The flip charting worked well, and the group discussions, things like that. Think anything that they had to do in pairs kind of really went off track, but what I will say is that the program is so well prescribed, you kind of can't miss anything in it. But if you're not mindful of your time, then you can become really stuck. Okay, so what part of the program is perhaps less useful? I think in some parts of sessions, there's a bit of, there's just things shoved in there, we'll say, to make up the time. But in my opinion, there's enough actually in the, what the real point of the session is, there's enough to fill a session there without the extra, kind of bits to add on. Sometimes you spend a lot of time kind of talking when there's no need, sometimes you can over talk or over explain something, and you just have to step back and say, okay, this is actually the main point of this. This is the steps you need to do, 1, 2, 3. I think sometimes it's just over explained and over talked about, and you lose people then. Okay, so could you give me examples of changes that you made to the program? Look, we would have taken out certain activities, we would have changed activities because maybe we didn't think they were appropriate, or they wouldn't work well for the group we had, or, maybe the thing we had planned for a particular week, the mood of the group was really high or it was really low, so we changed it. I suppose we changed things based on how we felt the group would respond to them. Okay. So if I was to ask you, why did you make those changes? It was really to make the program more understandable and more relevant for the families who were doing it. Okay. And so in looking at the process of making those changes, how did you decide what to change? So did you agree the changes in advance with your co-facilitator and site coordinator? So for the most part, we would have absolutely agree them with the co-facilitator. The only time it mightn't have been agreed would be where, something comes up in the middle of a session that, throws the session, so a parent lands in with a clanger and you kind of have to address that and then move on rather than following the plan 100%. We wouldn't really have told the site coordinator, what changes we were making. And in considering fidelity to the program, when making changes to the content or the delivery methods, would that have been a factor? So when you say fidelity, what do you mean? Like, sticking to the script, would you have kind of thought about how the scientific evidence of the program would have been affected by your changes? Well, I suppose I wouldn't have thought about how the program was affected in that sense, but I would have thought like, okay, I just want to make this piece better for the parents. I wouldn't have been thinking about that I needed, about how the fidelity was affected or not, but just in, I was sticking to the theme and I was sticking to the point, but I needed to change how it was delivered to make it better understandable for the parents. Okay, so did you discuss how the changes impacted the participants after the delivery? Yeah, we would have checked in with my co-facilitators to kind of say, how do you think that went? Okay, so based on the changes that you made in your experience as a facilitator in delivering the program, what improvements would you make to the program if you were to deliver it again? there are certain activities that I would take out and that I would change, from things that were lectures, I would change them to be a group work activity, things like that. Again, it would probably depend on who the group were. Okay, so in looking at the reflective journals, I have some questions based on your own reflective journal entries. So in relation to session 4 and question 6, you state that you did not deliver the talk on teen development and that it wasn't relevant to the programme. So could I ask you to elaborate on this? So session 4 is really, I suppose, kind of the beginning of where you're starting to put meat on the actual programme. And the first part of that session is really just talking about teenagers and, how their development and how they understand things is different. But realistically, the main throw of that session is you need to get the parents to understand how to identify what's a realistic goal and objective and to set that out. So in that sense, I don't know that the talk on the teen development, to be honest, I feel it's lectury, it's a bit highbrow for the parents that we have on the programme. Okay, that's great. So in session 5 then, questions 6 and 7, you referred to the group talking too much, not covering the programme and running out of time as they were talking too much. So do you think that the facilitator's ability to manage the group dynamics is a factor in the delivery of the programme and any changes that are made? I would say that a facilitator needs to be able to manage the group, and especially in SFP, because the timing is so tight. Like, you have 50 minutes to deliver a session. You need to make sure that your group gets heard, any questions, get the points across, get them to practice it. So I think the facilitator has to be really strong in how they do that. And it can be a big challenge. And, some days depending on how tired I am or, what's gone on for me earlier on in the day, I am better at doing it than others. But then that's where my co-facilitator, like if I'm feeling low energy and my facilitator is, in a different space, then they can support with that as well. But yeah, I suppose the group dynamics is a big management factor for facilitators. Okay, so you mentioned managing the group and not the programme was an issue. So could you please elaborate on why this was the case? Yeah, I suppose, look, in terms of, the parents were a group who were extremely chatty. Any opportunity they got, they would chat and try and divert you and distract you. I suppose, look, they were all coming with significant histories and things that had gone on in their own lives as well. But they were a group that were they were challenging to manage in that, the dynamics with regards talking, participation, getting them to engage in a topic, getting them to engage in a discussion, making sure that they were actually talking about or discussing what they needed to discuss if there was group work or working in pairs, So that was quite a challenge, rather than the actual, the programme piece of, what you do next and all of that. Sometimes it can be that the programme doesn't fit with the group, but to be honest, the group were challenging on this occasion. So then session 6, question 12, and session 12, question 12, you state that the session should be looked at as it's like a teacher in a classroom. And you also state there's a lot of discussion from facilitators in session 12. So do you consider the suggested delivery methods in the programme as suitable for the families attending the programme? And are you comfortable with the methods suggested? I think some of the sessions are better than others. Some of the sessions are, I don't think they are sometimes appropriate for the families who are on the programme. But I also don't think they're appropriate from the delivery method aspect, because sometimes they're just like you're a teacher standing up at the top of the classroom and you're lecturing, and you can see the parents are switching off, you know, and they've already put down 9 or 10 or 11 weeks at the programme, and, you know, it's a bit, it's just